Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So here's another deck profile for you guys today. This time it's on branded Despia. So yeah, branded is still pretty strong even with one branded fusion. The deck is just capable of just like breaking your opponent's board and just gather all its resources very efficiently. There's different multitude of ways you can play this deck. I know I've seen some 60 card builds where they actually play cards like That Grass Looks Greener. You also got like smaller builds that run up to like almost 50 cards that just mostly just focus on like summoning these powerful monsters. And like I said, just keep breaking your opponent's board. And there's just a lot of good variety you can play with. So I figured I'd just show you guys my own build of branded. And yeah, let's go and just get started. So my main deck is 48 cards, starting off with 3 copies of Fallen of Albaz. Got to play this at 3. He's basically super poly on legs. And yeah, not much more to say to that. And yeah, Fallen of Albaz is just great for, just to, like I said, just help break apart your opponent's board. Even if they do respond to it, if you have a follow card you can use, use it. 3 copies of Albion. I was playing 2 last time, but I decided to finally bump it up to 3. Definitely good because especially if you have branded in high spirits, this card becomes pretty cracked. Plus, not to mention, he lets you, Foolish Burial one of your branded cards from your deck to the grave and just kind of keep pushing, And if you happen to use his effect from the hand, you could draw a card, so that's also pretty nice. All right, next 2 copies of Blazing Cartesia, just to have an additional way to, fusion summon cards, because again, we only have 1 branded fusion, so you got to take full advantage of it as best as you can. Also, the fact that she recycles herself is pretty relevant too, so just bear that in mind. I'm only playing 1 Guiding Quem. I only need 1 for this build simply because, like, yeah, it's a great card to have maybe as a 2 of, but again, depending on like how you go about it, sometimes you'll need more than 1, but for me, the way I kind of constructed this, yeah, 1 is all I need. For the rest of the one-ofs, for the Albaz line, 1 Mercurier, 1 Kit. I like that Mercurier can actually be recycled in a way, so yeah. And Spriggan's Kit, it's searchable, so, and the fact that it also recycles one of your branded spells and traps, definitely something to consider. For just the Despia line, I'm only playing 3 copies of Aliber. This is basically your main starter, and you definitely want to try to make sure his effect resolves all the time, because like the one thing he's vulnerable to is Imperm or Veiler or even Ghost Mourner. So, but again, there are ways you can kind of facilitate that, but yeah, Aliber's like more valuable than ever now. And the only other Despian monster I'm playing is the 1 Tragedy. I'm not playing Ad Libitum simply because he's just too bricky, so I decided to just cut it for good. For my Bestial line, I'm playing 2 copies of Saranir. You could play this at 3, but you mostly want it because like he's a Foolish Burial for either your branded cards or your Bestial monsters. And usually, like if you already have a ways to get to the cards you need, Saranir is a great way just to dump your Libellion. But anyway, moving on, 1 copy of Magnamut. Since Albaz is also a dragon, it can be searched off of Magnamut's effect. And of course, the 1 Libellion, as I just stated. So if you hard open this, that's not too bad because you can just search out your Saranir almost immediately. And yeah. And to round up our monster lineup, 1 copy of the Gimmick Puppet Nightmare. So Gimmick Puppet Lock is still very much viable in this strategy. So yeah, don't rush off on that. All right, so now moving on to spells, and we do have a whole lot of them. So let me give you the card by card here. Starting off with 3 copies of Branded Opening. It's basically a Rhoda, which you can activate on your draw phase, which is really nice. Discard a card, not cost, by the way. You can special summon 1 Despia monster from your deck. So yeah, great way to get into Albert, go to Guiding Quem, and if you already happen to hard open that Despian Tragedy, that's even better because you can get some additional value off of that. So yeah, Branded Opening is pretty nuts. 3 copies of Branded High Spirits. This is also a pretty cracked card. So basically the way it works, like you reveal 1 monster in your hand. Usually you're going to want to reveal your Albion Dragon. Send 1 level 8 fusion monster from your extra deck to the grave with the same type that has 2500 attack or defense. Then you can apply the effect. Discard the revealed monster, and if you do, add 1 Fallen of Albaz or 1 monster that mentions it in its text from your deck to your hand. And then you can add this card from your graveyard during the end phase, so that's also really nice. So like Branded High Spirits just offers a lot of value, and again, sometimes getting your fusion monsters to the graveyard is pretty important. For the 1 of Branded spells, 1 fusion, of course, again, best card in the deck, but sucks it's at 1. 1 Branded in red, 1 Branded in white, and 1 Branded lost. So like you definitely need to play 1 of each of these. Moving on, 3 copies of Fusion Deployment. This card's really good because like you just reveal a fusion monster, and then you can either special summon a Fallen of Albez or your Blazing Cartesia, depending on like which direction you need to go to, and a great way to bait out the Ash. 3 Super Poly. I'm playing this just simply because again I like having board breakers. You could play Forbidden Droplet, most people do anyway, but I like the fact that most of your fusion monsters are basically Super Poly targets anyway. So like in case if you don't want to use the Albez effect, you could just go Super Poly instead. Your opponent can't respond to it, so yeah, you can understand like why I go with this. 3 Book of Eclipse. I kind of love and hate this card simply because like you don't want to let your opponent draw, but for me I like to use it defensively because like again going back to Aliber, if your opponent tries to negate the effect of your Aliber and you really need that to resolve, Book of Eclipse is a great way just to dodge targeting effects like that. That way you can just flip it face down and then just make sure that your effect goes off. So that's the main purpose of Book of Eclipse. So yeah. 3 copies of Triple Tactics Thrust. Now that you guys already know I have a playset of this, you might as well play it. And since we do have a lot of normal spells, yeah, definitely a card to take full advantage of. 1 Triple T, 1 Called By, 1 Gold Sark, and 1 Foolish Burial. So definitely powerful one-ofs and so forth. And then for the only traps I'm running is the 1 Retribution and 1 Fusion Duplication. Fusion Duplication is really nuts, but yeah. All fantastic cards. I definitely recommend this. All right, now moving on to the extra deck. Extra deck's pretty standard for a branded lineup. Obviously I'm going to be playing 2 copies of Mirror Jade. Best card in the entire extra deck, since, he does non-targeting removal. Double Albion and the 1 Lebellion, just to help you perform more fusion summons. 1 Sanctifier. Still don't understand why this is still legal, but I mean, it is what it is. 1 Rinbrum, 1 Titaniclad. This just here is like just a target for my Mirror Jade, but if I do need to hard make it, again, Super Poly can definitely help me make this card. I only have 1 Gragnunol. I thought I had a second one, but turns out I only have 1 in my bulk. So yeah, just playing the 1, and honestly 1 should be enough anyway, but some people like to play this at 2. 1 Despia Coriatus. I decided to switch back to this over Lulu While Lilith, just because like it powers down monsters. It also floats into another Fallen of Albez or Despian monster. So yeah, Coriatus has its utility. 1 Masquerade, just to help me play around time. 1 Carding Chimera. New addition, I'm playing the Light and Darkness Dragon Lord. I've actually seen some builds that play this, and honestly I can see why now, because like you can actually make this fairly easily with Lebellion's effect, just by shuffling itself back and any other Dark Dragon monster like Albion. And yeah, you can just make this. It's an Omnigate essentially, but keep in mind this does negate your effects too, and the negation is mandatory. It's once per chain though, so just bear that in mind. So like yeah, make sure you make this last in your combo if you decide to go into it. And yeah, that's all I gotta say about that. So, but if this card is destroyed by an opponent's card, you can target 1 dragon monster in your graveyard, just special summon it right back. So like yeah, Light and Darkness Dragon Lord is pretty busted in this way. So, like I said, just be careful on how you properly play this card. 1 Borreload Furious Dragon. This card's actually pretty good, especially because like it just requires any 2 Dark Dragons. Albez is a Dark Dragon, so you have plenty of ways to go into this. And of course, the 1 copy of Dragostapelia. Once again, going back to Lebellion, you can just make this by using its effect, or if you need to go into Super Poly, this is a fantastic Super Poly target. All right, so now moving on to my side deck. Funny enough, this deck does not really like to play hand traps, but the only one I am going to make an exception for is the Phantasmate, just because of the fact that it's a budget alternative to the Malcharmies. And the fact that it just helps you fix your hand is really good too. And we are in a format where there's a lot of link summoning, so yeah, Phantasmate is pretty strong right now. Speaking of which, I know I just say that Fuella's, I only have 1 copy of this, but that's fine. I mean, like, I'm mostly just using it as a target for a cross-out designator. And yeah, that can be pretty detrimental if your opponent, loses their card advantage. 3 Cosmic Cyclone, just to deal with back row. Let me put this on this side, actually. As well as 1 Harpy's Feather Duster, because like I don't like back row decks like Labyrinth, so yeah, you guys can see where this is going. 3 Evenly Matched is just a good equalizer, and then as an additional target for Thrust, 1 Barrier, but it could also be a cross-out target too, so like there's a lot of uses for it. Well, anyway, that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will catch you guys again next time.